What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. And this one is controversy in the casting of Corlys Velaryon. There's some people who are not happy about this situation, and we will address it today in this video. And I am not alone here. No, I could not just tackle this topic by myself. I have some friends with me. So let me introduce them real quick for you. I am joined by the one and the only. Y'all know her as the mother of the sweet summer children, Gray Area.
Hello, my sweet summer children. Happy to be here to talk about this topic. Yeah, let's go. Happy to be here with these two specifically.
All right, and since this is the guest you have invited, she's here, but I just met her, and I'm very happy to meet her. Will you please introduce her?
And we have my A Song of Ice and Fire bestie, Miss Alicia from Twitter at Totes Not Alice. Hey, Alicia.
Hi. Hi. I'm just kind of a mixed person along for the ride with this discussion and hoping not to make an ass out of myself. So let's do this.
We are not worried about that whatsoever. Now, listen, there has been controversy, and I promised Gray, I said, this is probably last time. Every time she come on, it's always something, like this. It's always something crazy that we got to discuss. And I promised her that next time when she comes on, I promise we're going to talk about something fun. It's not going to be something like, even though I think this is going to be fun. Well, I'm not here to accuse anybody of any type of feelings on the inside. What I'm trying to do is have a serious conversation. Why, and if people are willing to have that, then we can have that. Why are people so upset that this person casted is a black man for this role? That's what seems to be the controversy. So before that we go into what all the people are thinking, let's go around what y'all think. Gray, do you mind that this person being cast, he didn't even get the job yet, but if he does get the job, as a black man playing this character?
No, I don't mind. At first I was like kind of conflicted about it. Like, okay, like how does this affect the plot? Does it affect the plot? And like the more I think about it, the more I can't see it not being this guy. Like I'm gonna be mad if it's not him now.
That is what's up, best. Alicia, how do you feel?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm really staunch in wanting this casting in particular. I don't know. I'm not going to lie. My initial reaction was slight skepticism, but the more I thought on it, the more I just absolutely love it. I think there's so many ways it can work out. I say, let's do this.
Yeah, I made a video about it, and I was very excited for the casting. I truly wanted to be him. I'm glad that they casted a black person in this role. I'm glad that they casted a black person in a major role in Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon series. I don't think we really had one. I mean, if you want to consider Missandei one, I mean, she still was a slave. So I don't really consider her a main character like that. I think of a main character like Peter Dinklage, Kit Harington, Emilia Clarke. Like those are the main characters to me. I mean, obviously you got to have more than just those three. You only have those three, but even the secondary characters like Tywin Lannister and all these other characters there, Cersei and all up. We didn't have a black person or person of color. I'm saying black, but also mean a POC in any of those roles. So I'm very happy that they're doing this. All right. So we talked a little bit earlier today. Do you think that it is being done in good faith, or do you think that they're doing this to pander to black people?
I'm gonna let y'all answer that. Alicia.
I honestly do not know. Like I would love to believe that it's not pandering, but I've also seen a lot of black people bring up good points that it could be pandering. It is one of those things that unfortunately we'll have to see how things unfold as time goes by. I'm just going to say, God, I hope it is not pandering. I hope it is truly a progressive act, step into the future, changing up how we view casting and main roles and the the ethnic background that is brought to main casting. And yeah.
Yeah, I even if it was pandering, I think we deserve to be pandered to a little bit here. I wouldn't even mind it, in all honesty. I think that they have a good intentions on doing it, but I do think that Black people do need to be shown some love. And this is Black people haven't been shown a lot of love in dealing with when you deal with sci-fi or fantasy, right? So this to throw us, I wouldn't want to say throw us a bone, but get something for us. I truly appreciate it. So I'm not mad at it either way. I am very happy about it. So let's go into why people are exactly mad. Now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up some comments from Twitter. I mean, from video I did, and I'm going to truly try to see if I can go through some of these questions that the people that see what these people said, and honestly see if they said something that we could actually discuss, that we could actually talk about, right? Like, is it really valid, their points that they're trying to make here? Because if it is valid, then I will definitely talk to it. But if it's not, then I really can't do it. Let's start with this cat right here, Hero Zero, and he says, pathetic. For something like you, I don't understand that. For something like you must have, I think, haven't been offended and not been happy. This just show that you are not a fan of George R.R. Martin world, and you don't understand the law of Valyria, and how make Corlys black create so many plot holes, and how make Corlys black creates, I think it means makes it, so many plot holes. Man, you disrespect your own race with this video. So somehow I disrespected my own race because I said in this video that I was excited that a Black man was casted in this video. But I'm going to try to take his stupid comment and I'm going to try to actually, lend some credence to it. All right, so he says it creates plot holes. Great. Do you see the plot holes he's talking about that it would create if this is cast as a Black person?
Initially, yes. So initially, that was my reaction. Like, Rhaenyra's children are supposed to be bastards of Sir Harwin Strong. And a lot of the Green's ammunition towards Rhaenyra is that her children are bastards of Sir Harwin Strong, even though they can't prove it. But her children have 2 Valyrian parents with silver hair, and her children have brown hair. So initially, yes, that was my thought. But when you actually think about it, like, Laenor, who is Rhaenyra's husband, would be mixed. He would be Corlys and Rhaenys' son. So we don't know what his complexion will be because mixed people come in all different complexions. And it still may be ambiguous. And I don't see it really setting off the plot as bad as people think it would be. Like, I don't see it. One solution is you make House Strong Black as well. That's one solution. Another solution is that they're mixed kids, so you still won't know what they still could be white passing kids. So I don't see it fucking up the plot.
All right, so but the plot hole, one of the plot holes that people are trying to say that would cause would be the kids, right? So these kids are supposed to be, you won't be able to tell. You would be able to tell that they aren't this person's kids. That's what they're trying to say, right? That's their number one argument why he shouldn't be casted as a Black person is because the kids, you'd be able to tell that they were his kids and everything else. We'll go with you, Aisha. Because
Alicia.
I'm sorry. You Black today, all Black. You are of mixed descent, correct?
Correct.
All right. And what is your mixed race that you are?
So my father is black and my mother is white. So
So I'm gonna solo you for a second so people can see you. All
Oh
right.
my
I'm just
goodness.
gonna do this for a second. I'm sorry. All right. So you are a mixed child, and you do not, inherently look straight black. I don't know if someone would just come up to you and would just think that you are a black woman. I don't know if you would get that just from people just spotting you on the street. Uh,
mhm.
what is your experience? Oh, actually, because I don't want to keep you up there. I would. I don't mind looking at you,
It
but
was like,
but
uh,
what is your experience of being dealing with this topic and being of mixed race yourself?
I will acknowledge right now, even as a person mixed between black and white, I have experiences that would be, different from a lot of other people who are mixed with black and white simply because I don't typically quote unquote look black. I am very ethnically ambiguous looking. So people have asked me if I am every ethnicity that you can possibly think of. I know once I tell them that I'm half black, then suddenly they start to see it a little bit more, which is really ironic because my facial features are just a dead ringer for my father, who happens to be black. Um, so it's been interesting. I know my best friend, who just informed me, is watching right now. When he met me, he said that he thought that I was whatever Princess Jasmine was. And I'm like, oh, you thought I was from Agrabah. All right, I'll take it. So I mean, like, once I tell people, it's like suddenly like certain angles of my face, certain expressions I make, they'll say, yes, I can totally see the blackness in you. But other than that, I don't think I've ever had a person guess of their own volition that I'm mixed between black and white. So that's been my personal experience with it.
Exactly. X101, I don't think you could say that he says no one would say that she's white. I don't think you could say what no one would say. You don't speak for everybody. So I don't know if that's a valid thing, so I have mixed children. My children are half white. I have with the same mom. I have two girls and the same lady, and that they're half white and stuff. And it's a difficult situation. It's not the same experience. Growing up as a black person, growing up as a white person, growing up as a mixed person is a totally different situation. You know what I mean? It's totally different experience because you do hear it from both sides sometimes, right? You do. You don't know exactly where you fit in sometimes when you're growing up. I know my daughter, she had that problem, but I think the reason why she had that problem was because it was majority of a white neighborhood that she was growing up in, and she was the only black girl in her school, and she looked like Raven Simone. And so, it was pretty obvious. Now, when the Raven Simone show came out, she became the most popular girl in school because she looked like her when It's So Raven dropped. But before that, she had a hard time. People weren't inviting her to parties. People weren't talking to her. And these are little kids, and they still were treating her like that. So it's definitely a different situation. But when dealing with A Song of Ice and Fire and these children being mixed, I think it's a great thing. And as I said before, it's good for black people as a whole and mixed people who need to find their own characters out there too. There need to be not just black characters out there, but characters of mixed descent so that they can look at themselves on the TV screen. We need to have more of that, and I think we don't. We got a super chat here. Let me address that real quick. I don't have my glasses on, so it's going to be hard for me to read it. I'm not going to get them. This is from Eric. Thank you so much. It says, Idris Elba was perfect for James Bond. They better do that. This role might have some more obstacles with the Valyrian features, but I think they can make some adjustments and work it out. Much love, Don. So Idris Elba, there was a big, huge controversy because they wanted him to play James Bond. And the people in Britain almost rioted over that situation. That for him to play, they did not want him to be James Bond because he was black. And I think that when we really look at it, I think that people may say that they have other reasons, but I think that is the main reason why. people don't like it. Let me go real quick to this next question because it addresses exactly what this man just said. And it says right here, not the side. This is from Matthew V. I can't pronounce his last. I know it's Oni on the end, right? So V Oni. Not to sound like a dick, but this makes no sense. The Valyrians are from Valyria and have Targaryen traits. This is stupid. All right, so
Can I?
Yes, go right ahead. Of course you can.
So we were talking about this pre-stream. The Valyrian features are silver hair and purple eyes. That's Valyrian features. Valyrians come from Valyria, the lands of always summer, which has a climate very similar to Africa. They have a climate that's very, very hot, where pale skin wouldn't necessarily be what's dominant. And we know it's not dominant because everything surrounding Valyria, which is like Slaver's Bay, Yunkai, Astapor, Marine, these are all brown-skinned people. So I don't think it's far-fetched to make someone from Valyria. Now, House Velaryon has never been introduced in Game of Thrones. So you also have to keep in mind that, yes, we are all really big book fans and we're all like the source material, the source material, the source material. But House of the Dragon is also trying to bring along the people that just watched the show, that just watched Game of Thrones. So there's a lot of people that haven't read the books. They don't know the history and lore. I find that you can make a person of color with Valyrian features very easily. And we talked about it. I think you have the picture of Storm from X-Men. Beautiful.
Yeah, I can bring that up. Go ahead. It'll take me a second to do it. I can do it.
Yeah, but I think the actor that they're trying to cast for Corlys is a very strong and powerful actor. Take away his skin color. And just look at how Corlys is described, as in his personality, the way he acts, his mannerisms, just a powerful badass. And tell me if you saw Black Panther or Penny Dreadful that you do not think that this guy can play the fuck out of Corlys Velaryon. Take the image that you have out of your head and tell me that you don't think this actor can play Corlys Velaryon.
Yeah, when we look here and we see the image of Storm, we see Storm with the, we consider what they're trying to say would be Targaryen traits, right? We see her here. I didn't see anyone complain about it. You know what I mean? When we seen her there, she looks gorgeous. And all of these shots, anyone that you see with this silverish hair, I mean, she looks beautiful with this. And if this is what they're going to look like, have Black women who are Targaryens look like, I am 100% for that. You know what I mean? They could do that all day. I'll take it all day. But, saying that this is the reason why, you know what I mean? That they say just because of the silver hair and the purple eyes is the reason why this guy can't be this role, I think is a cop-out. I think that's bogus. What do you say down there?
I do think that there are people that are so caught up in what I think is deeply ingrained in us since pictures could move that leads go to white people. White people are main characters, Black people are kind of there as a token character. Black people are there as, a supporting character. Like, these are things that even unfortunately a lot of people of color have ingrained in them that, traditionally it should be a white people, that we kind of don't even, I say as a whole, not Black people, but I mean, like, as a society, we don't even look at all the ways that it could possibly work. Because here's the deal. You can do essentially whatever you want with the ancestry of Corlys Velaryon if he is Black. If you want to make the entire house of the Velaryons Black, You can totally do that for reasons that we had mentioned earlier. However, it's still extremely plausible that a Black man, a darker skinned Black man, can hail from a house with deeply white roots. It would really only take a couple of generations of darker skinned individuals to make a man Black, whether he has white ancestry or not. Like, logistically, there are so many ways it could work out, but I think we're so hyper focused on like I feel like society, especially the fandom as a whole, is so in shock at the idea of a Black person playing this guy we envisioned as white, that I think it's kind of laziness when you're not looking at all the ways it really could work,
No doubt about it. And Pavlo Roca with this comment, I don't know what you mean. I've never seen Halle Berry as a Black person. What did you see her as then? I mean, that's just people just trying to troll in the chat. Listen, it's really possible if you truly want to look at, could he be a Black man? Yes, there's ways that they could figure that out and how a Valyrian could be Black. I mean, when you talk about old Valyria, we're assuming that, that these Valyrian people just had sex with each other. And they didn't travel anywhere, and they just had sex with each other, and that was it. And they were strict about it. But these are people who rode dragons. I know that anyone who travels, eventually you going to sleep with someone of a different race, right? That there's no way around it. That's what life is. If you're a white person and you travel to China and you stay long enough, you will sleep with a Chinese woman and she'll have you.
I just want to bring up, like there are right now in A Song of Ice and Fire, Black Valyrians or mixed Valyrians. We have the Black Pearl of Bravos, which Aegon the fourth. Aegon the Fourth had multiple children with her. We have Nettles, which is probably a mixed race Valyrian. I mean, it exists. It's not like they're taking something that doesn't exist and saying, "Oh, let's make it exist just for the sake of making it exist." It exists already. So I don't really.
Well, even Tony said before we started recording, you have Brown Ben Plum, who is, I mean, brown, obviously. And, Danny's dragons show an affinity toward him. And he even straight up says, like, yeah, I have some dragon blood. So it's not beyond the realm of possibilities. It's just people being shook because they really want Corlys to be white, in my opinion.
That's what it really comes down to. They truly want this man to be white. And why? And why can't there be a Black main character in a lead role? Now, people have to understand, as you said, not everyone who watches the show is going to read the books. I would beg to say that the majority of people who watch this show will not have read the books when they watch. Maybe they'll make them go read the books. So it really isn't going to matter. So the people who come up with this, oh, you're messing with the law. What is this law? I say that if there is something that jeopardizes the story because his skin is Black, then I think you can make a valid argument why he shouldn't be a Black man. But the Targaryen skin being white does not grant them anything in the story that cannot be overcome by right. It doesn't like their white skin gives them the ability to ride dragons. Their purple eyes give them the ability to ride dragons. Jon Snow don't look Targaryen. Ain't no one complain about that shit. He don't look Targaryen whatsoever, right? Zero, nothing. Kit Harington, the actor who played him, didn't look Targaryen. I didn't hear anything about that. And no one complained about him. Oh, Kit, no, he doesn't look nothing like a Targaryen supposed to look like. And when you really look at a lot of the people that they casted in these roles, most of them don't have the book Targaryen features. Even the people that we just seen them cast doesn't have the book Targaryen features. But I don't see anyone really truly complaining about that situation, but they are complaining about this man. It strictly has to be because he's Black, and they just don't want to see him. Because you could have a Black person with purple eyes; it will look good. You could make anything look good. With the right wigs, prosthetics, and everything else, it would all work. You know what I mean? So I think it will work. As for the person in here saying that Black people should write their own fantasy stories, this is being run by George R.R. Martin. It's not like someone took his book and he's not got nothing to do with this show. I don't know how much of the casting process he's involved in, but I'm going to say he's definitely involved in it. So I would think that this is something that he approved of to do. So I don't think that this is just something that people just went on against.
And I can elaborate more. I don't mean, but there's a comment right here about George R.R. by Urias Tosh. George R.R. Martin could literally make a video. I lost the comment. I lost it.
I got it. Yeah.
George R.R. Martin could literally make a video about how he always wanted to make the Valyrians black, and some fans would still freak out. It's not about canon, it's about bigotry. And that is true. Like, George has said that he initially planned to make the Valyrians black.
I'm gonna pull up exactly what George said in this comment, because I have that actual statement from George when he came out, and with his consideration, and this is from I'm taking this from this is this is from his blog in 2013. Let me take down this comment so people can see it. 2013. This is what George said about. We'll break it down piece by piece. He says, right from the start, I wanted the Targaryens, and by the extension, the Valyrians, from who they were descended, to be a race apart, with distinctive features that set them apart from the rest of Westeros, and help explain their obsession with the purity of their blood. So even if we just stop right there, George is trying to say that if all the people in Westeros are white people there, he's saying he wanted them to be a race apart. He didn't want them to be white people. He wasn't looking at them as white people. He was looking at them as a different race entirely, if you want to look just from what he said right there. So all the people who get mad, I could get mad and say, well, he shouldn't cast white people in this role either, because these are supposed to be a race apart. Number two, this is a fantasy story that has goddamn White Walkers and people from the dead. So, anything is really possible when you look at this. So, but just from that one sentence that he's saying, he's telling you exactly that he doesn't see these people as straight white people. All right. Then he says, to do this, I made the conventional high fantasy choice and gave them silver gold hair, purple and violet eyes, fine chiseled aristocratic features. That worked well enough, at least in the show and in the books. On the show, so less so, he says. So in the books, he's clearly saying right here that it worked for him to get away with that. But in the show, it's not distinctive enough to set them apart from everyone else in Westeros. You can't just have them because they look like regular white people just with silver hair and purple eyes. And that's not what he wanted. He wanted them to be separated from, because in the books, if you want to look at the description that are given to them, we'll go right back to that. But it's more like a White Walkerish type of look the Targaryens have. Is that what you read it when y'all read it? Is that what y'all take it as? Like the White Walkers are supposed to be beautiful, and that's, I ain't hear nobody complain about these ugly ass White Walkers when they're supposed to be beautiful creatures, right, in the book. But when they put out these disgusting looking creatures, I didn't hear no one losing their mind over that.
It's otherworldly beauty. And I think what George wanted to do with the Targaryens is make them like a counterpart to the White Walkers, like oddly beautiful. They have these very distinct features. Like the White Walkers are from the lands of always winter. The Targaryens are from the lands of always summer. The White Walkers are described as oddly beautiful. The Targaryens are described as oddly beautiful. They both have the silvery hair. They both have, like, the White Walkers have those blue icy eyes, and the Targaryens have purple eyes. So I do think that he purposely made them counterparts to each other. But
Can I say
all
something?
Targaryens aren't Valyrians. I mean, all Valyrians aren't Targaryens.
Correct. Can I say something about Fruity Lou's comment right here? Okay, so to preface this a little bit, when I first saw the Corlys Velaryon casting Top Choice, I already said this. I'm not going to lie. My mind was like, what? But then I had to stop and ask myself, why not? I think the most important question that people need to be asking is to really stop and ask, why can't a Black man truly play this role that you envisioned as white? Now, to address, it's weird having this guy as a Targaryen, I think that's what it all comes down to. Y'all think it's weird, and you don't want to get past that weirdness. You want to stay in your comfort zone of white people playing these traditional roles. In my mind, there really aren't a whole lot of reasons that a Black man cannot play Corlys Velaryon without, not easy fixes necessarily, but like every time I've told myself like, oh, this wouldn't work, like I've thought of something else that it's like, okay, well, this is what the show can do. This is what the show can do. But I really think this Fruity Lou comment like really showcases how it really is with the fandom that object to this. Like, oh, it's just weird. Too fucking bad.
Why is it weird? Tell me, Fruity Lou. And just please expand on this comment and let me know exactly what's weird about it. Why do you find it weird? Why do you? Please, I'm not trying to drag you or say anything. I'm just saying. You came out with a comment saying that it's weird. I would like to know exactly what's weird about it to you. If you can, please let me know exactly why you feel that it would be weird for a Black person to play this role. And he's not a Targaryen, all right, number one. But I understand what you're trying to say. So please tell me why is it weird? I don't see how it's weird or why it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? I think that it's a great thing. And I said this in my video, and I'll say it again right now. Black people, I go to con, every year. Ever since they had a Con of Thrones, I've been to every one. I have not missed a Con of Thrones. I've been on a panel in every one. Even if I wasn't on the panel, I would just went just to go to chill with people. Black people need people to be able to dress up as too. Right? It would be, George R. R. Martin put in the story I just read, he's saying that, those changes work well to make people look different in your mind's eye when you're reading the book story. But when you put it on screen, it's not enough. He doesn't want them to be seen as strictly white people. That's not what he wanted. He wanted them to be seen as something else, something other, a different race totally than white people. So obviously we only have one race on this planet. So we can't go get an actor from a different race. All the people here are human beings. So there's nothing we can truly do there. So it doesn't come across on TV the way he wanted to. And people have to understand too, when you are reading your book, I know you have ways that you believe certain things can look like. Like when I read Castle Rock, and I seen it on the show, that's not what I read. Right? That wasn't my image of Castle Rock. Right? I did not think it looked like what they showed in the show. Right? Did I write about it? Did I say, that's not Castle Rock? I said that's not what I thought Castle Rock would look like. But it's their show's choice to do it the way they did it. They did the best job that whatever they felt they're doing. So I just think that sometimes people are just complaining just for the sake of complaining. But I'm gonna go back and continue reading right now real quick what George said in his own words right here. He said, but in recent years, it has occurred to me from time to time that it might have made for an interesting twist if instead I had made the Dragon Lords of Valyria and therefore the Targaryens Black. Maybe I could have kept the silver hair too, though. No, that comes too close to dark elf territory. But still, if I had dark-skinned dragon lords invade and conquer the dominantly a large white Westeros, though that choice would have brought its own perils. The Targaryens have not all been heroic, after all. Some of them might have been monsters and madmen, and so that is a very interesting dichotomy that he's talking about right here, because he's saying that he would consider doing that, but in doing so, if he made them Black, and George said that he considered doing this his own words, he felt that they wouldn't have been looked at the same way. Because if you had black people all on dragons coming to a white area and taking over, that it wouldn't be perceived the same way it was that the Targaryens were perceived as. Great, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about show Daenerys. The scene, I know me and you have talked about this on podcasts with LML and Quinn. The scene where she's in Marine and she's being lifted up by a bunch like all brown people, she comes off as a white savior. We've talked about it before. I feel like when you're just visually looking at something on screen, like the imagery of it, I see where she could come off as a white savior, but I don't even I see the Targaryens as a different species. Like I see the White Walkers as a different species. And I think George has tried to make them almost inhuman. And he's done a lot to make them parallel the White Walkers. So I think that that imagery is not always a good look when it's being broadcast to thousands of people, millions of people.
So I know that in the books, they kind of do hint quite heavily at the fact that the Targaryens aren't completely human because of how many stillborn babies show up throughout generation after generation with very reptile-like features, you know? That's a pretty big hint right there. It also speaks to their really close inbreeding that they're constantly doing. But I mean, as much as I don't think that the show was really aiming toward white saviorism, it's like what was previously said, like you do have to be extremely careful with the imagery that you portray, because subliminally, even inadvertently, that can give huge white saviorism messages. You know, like I remember watching that video that you two did with LML and Quinn, and people reacted, and this was like 2017, long before, you know, the George Floyd riots, which opened up like whole new levels of discussion where even a whole lot of, I mean, there were still white people that wanted to argue with it, but, you know, like there were a whole lot of non-Black people that opened their eyes up to things they didn't want to open their eyes up to anymore, because you're seeing clear as day the beatdown. You cannot deny it that Black people are constantly getting, you know, eyes are more open now. You still have your ignoramuses, but I mean, what really upset me was reading the comment section in response to what Tony said 3 years ago when he mentioned white saviorism, because you had white person after, I don't just want to blame this on the whites, but you had non-Black person after non-Black person after non-Black person, like calling him really ignorant names because he pointed out something that's like extremely obvious now to most people, but it wasn't as obvious back then. But I mean, like, I think we do really need to be careful with, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like House of the Dragon presents an opportunity to change up the imagery that subliminally ingrains whitewashed shit in our heads. Like, you do have to be careful with the imagery, because even if you're looking at Daenerys being raised up by a bunch of brown slaves, like, oh, mother, Misa, Misa, you know, you're not consciously thinking this is white saviorism, but subconsciously it does put certain biased images in your brain that you desensitize yourself to really thinking about whether it's okay or it's, you know, wrong, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'll say thank you for, you know, noticing that those stupid comments that people are leaving. But I don't care. People leave, they can say whatever they want. I'm going to say the truth. And people are going to either react whatever way they're going to react to it. And I don't like saviors either way. I don't like movies where it's a all Black band and all of a sudden the white teacher comes in there and now they're the best band in all, and then they go to the finals. I don't like an all white football team and then all of a sudden a Black coach comes in there and now all of a sudden that they're the best football. I don't like movies like that. Me personally, I don't like that. Let me put Fruity Loop, because I don't want anyone. I'm not trying here to jump on anyone or put anything and make anyone look in a bad light. I'm just putting it. So Fruity Lou said he wanted to clarify something. So he says, yo, do not get me wrong, man. I said being a Targaryen related family would be weird. But if was introduced as being another family, dark-skinned dragon riders would have been super cool. All right. So saying, could there have been dark-skinned people on Valyria? I think, listen, if they're going to make characters up and put other characters in there that are not in the show that we know, then yes. But I think that he's not a Targaryen, and if you're saying that you're cool with him being another Dragon Rider family, then you should be cool with him being this family. Then
does it say anywhere in the books that Corlys is pale skinned or white? No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Not that I remember.
I can read you his appearance and character description from Westeros.org, which is they're not going to miss it. By the age of 70 and 30, Corlys was hailed the greatest seafarer in the Seven Kingdoms had ever known. Corlys was said to be as brilliant as he was restless and adventurous as he was ambitious. Though he accomplished much and more in life, he was seldom satisfied. Corlys was known to be intractable even in old age. He was remembered as wise in peace and valiant in war. He was a proud man. Queen Alicent Hightower thought him arrogant. During his elder years, Corlys liked to say that he was clinging to life like a drowning sailor clinging to the wreckage of a sunken ship. So nowhere does it ever say he's a white dude.
Exactly. And let me bring up this comment here. He says, Tales of Ebek. We have already Nettles as a dragon rider. So we've gotten to an argument about this a little before the stream. And I'm going to say what I have to say. We have Nettles, but let's look at Nettles, what it truly Nettles. If that would be if they did not change characters to what, let's say they made everyone white like you thought they were going to be, Nettles would be the person of color that we get, the one person of color that we get in this show. And I don't think that that's good enough to have just Nettles, because to me, they put her on the dragon that they claim to be the ugliest dragon of them all, right? It clearly says that she's on the ugliest, dirtiest, looks like mud dragon.
I can't see it.
Of all these dragons, right? You have all these beautiful silver dragons and silver wings and gold this, and the scales look like emeralds, and this one looks like sapphires. They put the black chick on, and they specifically say dirty, mud-looking dragon that she gets, the shittiest one. That's not good enough for me. I'm sorry. I don't want to see just Nettles on some dirty ass dragon. That ain't fair. Why can't she be on a beautiful dragon? So just having that, to me, and we could argue this point, but to me, she's just a side piece on top of all that.
Yeah,
right,
I
am
don't
going to
agree.
argue that one.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I'm going to. Okay, I remember reading through, the story of the Dance of the Dragon the first time, and there are certain elements that you're not going to appreciate as much during a second, as much as a second read. But I mean, I think of Nettles, and I do think she has so many badass elements. Like I feel like the very first way that they introduce her is that she's clever. It's not saying she couldn't have tamed a dragon by, being brave and getting half her body burned off like some of the other dragon seeds or supposed dragon seeds were trying to. Like she chose she chose to be patient, and she chose to be smart about it. It's like, I'm going to drop off a sheep. I'm going to come back tomorrow with another sheep. Like, I feel like she had a clever way of taming the dragon to begin with. What's on top of that, like, she must have been, I don't think she was just a side piece, because here's the deal about Daemon. Daemon was one of those individuals that it's like, I don't even want to call him a gray area character, because dude was a dick. Dude was a dick. He's so ruthless, but I do believe like he cared about Nettles enough to let her go and face. I mean, he never faced Rhaenyra after he told Nettles to fly off on Sheep Stealer, but I mean, like, he cared about her enough to give her the heads up and not just like discard her. And plus, it's heavily hinted Nettles might have started up the clan of the Burned Men. So I mean, or in the Mountain clans over in the Eyrie, or not Eyrie, the Vale. over in
Yeah.
the Vale. Like, she might have started up this whole tribe of, you know, burned men and all that. I think she has plenty of elements that make her badass, because she is one of the few dragon riders that came out of the Dance of the Dragon in one piece, much less alive, you know.
And like, to further add on to that, like to riff off of that, I think the relationship between Nettles and Daemon is a lot more than a side piece, because one, there's a theory that she could actually be Daemon's daughter, which I think is interesting. But there's also, like, if you look at it, when Daemon left her and told her, like, you know, fly away, Rhaenyra wants to kill you, the dragon screamed and like broke every window in John Quill's tower. So there is some kind of deeper connection there than just my side hoe. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
However, I will say, I will, not that I love the side hoe aspect of it, but I will say Tony has a point when he says it's like the one bone you throw at us with melanin is kind of like the fact that we can sit here and debate it about it tells us, you know, we should have characters of character or characters of color with a lot more depth and prominence, you know, prominence to them. The fact that we're sitting here debating it back and forth does kind of tell a story about how they just didn't give Nettles her due, whether she was mixed or not.
And we talked before stream, and I just want to talk about it right now real quick, that when you translate a book to a TV show, you saw it with Game of Thrones. They cut characters out completely, or they composite characters. And there's a lot of dragon seeds that play a big part in the story. Like, are they going to composite Nettles with someone else? Like, how many of the dragon seeds do you guys feel like will make it onto the series? Like, do you feel like part of the Corlys casting could be to composite Nettles with like Sir Adam and make Nettles Corlys's daughter?
Well, the big difference between the Dance of the Dragons and A Song of Ice and Fire proper is Game of Thrones was dealing with thousands upon thousands of pages of material, where House of the Dragon, unless they're turning it into some anthology series about a bunch of different eras of the Targaryen reign, they're not dealing with don't get me wrong, the Dance of the Dragon is still like very detailed, very rich storytelling, but it's not as much material as Game of Thrones. So as much as the smart thing to do is to apply what's called the law of conservation, which Game of Thrones did it tenfold, and I understand why. House of Dragon has a little more breathing room to throw in as much detail as possible. However, I do think it would make sense budget-wise to not throw in as many non-super essential characters, if that makes sense. Like, Adam Velaryon was an extremely essential character, as well as, was it Alan? Which one of them, it's been so long, which one of them ended up marrying one of Daemon's daughters and then the other died?
I think it's Alan.
Okay. So, I mean, like, you can totally... Adam died, and then Alan became... Who became Oakenfist?
Alan.
Yes.
Alan.
Okay. So, I mean, you totally can. I mean, like, Rhaenyra thought Nettles betrayed her too. So you can still have her show up, deal with the White Hammer, and the other dude that actually did betray Rhaenyra. They can have their little fight. You can even have Nettles survive that fight, but then still fly off to, you know, the Vale Mountains or some stuff like that. I mean, like, you could totally composite the two. It would also make sense to just add those 5 core dragon seeds, you know? But I
think Hugh Hammer should be black. I think Hugh Hammer should be black too. Listen, I would love this. I think that Blood and Cheese, one of them should be black too. I would take one of those people being black too. I mean, you have to have diversity, and as I said, there's black people who watch this show, man, and people need to see people that look like them. And when you go to these cons, you have, you know, black people want to dress up too. You know, we want to have costumes that we could dress up and we could relate to too. We have people we could dress up as. We don't want to just dress. I mean, when you look at the way Black women have been done in this show, it's pretty bad. I mean, you know, you have Nettles, and yes, she did get the dragon, but she has the dirty, shittiest dragon. You have the Black Pearl. Yeah, she's a real beautiful woman, but yeah, she's the most beautiful prostitute of them all. They have the one Black lady who gets whipped in the street that they showed in the show. You have everyone that you see, these Black women are not getting done justice in this book series. All right. So I think that they would have to do something better to make the Black women, especially, they get done dirty in this book series. Everyone that they bring up. So I think that they need to have a better. It's just not enough just to have her. She needs a more prominent role. And that's why we need a more prominent character. So I think that it's a good idea to have this guy as a Black man. I think that people really just don't want him because he's Black. I think that if you don't want to, they can say anything else they want to say about these features and everything else, but truly, it's just the fact that he's Black that got everybody all upset.
Can we segue a little bit too into?
Yep.
Like, and the thing is, like, this is one of the big quote unquote hangups people supposedly have is if you have a Black man that plays with quote unquote how the kids are going to turn out and the whole arguing about features back and forth. In all honesty, I would love to see, because, you know, in the books, Corlys very much owns Rhaenyra's sons as his grandkids. At no point is he anything but, yo, these are my grandkids. This is how it, like, he goes to war for it. You know, there's no way in the books anyway, but I would love to see a scene where a Black Corlys walks up to somebody and asks, and what of it, when they bring up physical appearance and you know, legitimacy or bastardy and all that other stuff. Like, I would love to see this as a dialogue that opens up in the show about, you know, you'll have, what's really funny is, like, now that I'm thinking about it, the show's gonna have to do something different than just the Blacks and the Greens, especially if they cast a bunch of African American, you know, a bunch of people of Afro descent on the quote unquote Black side of the Targaryen war. But I mean, like, I would love to see dialogue with people on the Black faction basically being like, what about these features? Like, why does it matter to you? All that other stuff. Like, I'd love to see those discussions open up. But I mean, what you could do is, like, Corlys Velaryon could have mixed race children. And I mean, I'll take my own family as an example. You know, my niece and nephew have 3 white grandparents and 1 Black grandparent, and they look darker. You know, depending on the day, you can be like, man, you look like a little white kid. Other days, it's like, you know, I see a little bit of Black in you, but it's like, you know, like we talked about, it mixed people turn out differently. Like me, I'm half Black, and most people off the street are never going to fucking guess that in a million years, you know. But like, what you can do to really throw in a whole lot of debate, even within the show, is make Harwin Strong a redhead or something. Make the rest of the Strongs redheads. Make it one of those seed is strong, Game of Thrones typical, like, this is a trait that just keeps getting passed down. Okay. Then make the Velaryon brothers, you know, Rhaenyra's sons, make them pop up as gingers. That way you do have a bit of like a huge nod that these are most likely Harwin Strong's children. It's plausible within universe that everybody and their brother is going to think that they're Harwin Strong's children, but at the same time, it's not impossible for children that are 1/4 Black to still turn out with red hair, whether red hair runs strong in their family or not.
I know there's a rapper called the Redhead Kingpin. He's a Black dude who had a redheaded flat top. So, you know,
Right.
People get these features. I know Black people. I know a lot of Black people that you would not know are Black, that have both Black parents, that you would have no idea. They have straight hair and everything, and you would think they were white, but they have 2 Black parents. So,
well, have you ever seen those twins? And they are twin girls, and one of them looks completely white. She has like strawberry blonde hair. She has finer hair. It's longer. And then her twin sister has the typical black features. She has the thicker hair. It's like really tight curls, you know, all that other stuff. And like they're full siblings and they're twins on top of that. It's just their genetics turned out physically different.
Yeah,
you know?
genetics is like hard to explain, and like I mean, it's not hard to explain, but nobody wants to like just explain genetics when you can fucking Google that shit.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of mathematics that come in with probability of you turning out with a certain, you know, certain features, but at the same time, it's like a lottery, you know, like
Right.
if it, you know, the little lottery ball turner thing, if you put like 12 balls in there that are blue, and then okay, I don't even want to use that example because I'm sounding like one of those all lives matter people that's like, I don't care if you're purple or orange or blue. What I'm trying to say is like, you can put the number 12, like 12 balls that say number 12, and then you can circle it in with like 2 balls that say the letter, you know, say the number 5, you know, and you turn that. It's not as likely that you're going to pull out a ball with the number 5 in it, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's how genes work, especially like when you come from, well, not just limited to when you're mixed race, you know, it's like but especially when you're mixed, it's a lottery. It really is. I know for me personally, like I got almost all of my facial features from my father, but my mother really decided to bless me with some paleness going on there, you know, and like, or I like, unfortunately, I got my mother's feet. It doesn't matter, you know, so I mean, it just genetics, and even with in a fantasy series, when it comes down to it, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Yeah, because it's fantasy.
Because it's fantasy.
And I like the idea you said about the red hair, because that's a Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones thing, where it's the hair color. Like with Robert Baratheon, the only people in Westeros apparently that their genetics are always going to produce a black-headed child is the Baratheons.
who come from silver hair people, right? Because they're Targaryens, who are, you know, that he's the half brother of Rhaegar, so he truly is a Targaryen. But for some reason, this Targaryens, they only produce black-haired people. All right, so it would not be far-fetched. And this is a book that Gray shared. This person I want to show you, this is a darker skinned person with silver hair. So you can see how that would translate in the screen, how it could be. And it looks beautiful. Again, we got a super chat here from Mona, who's a simp. Mona Hinks simp. Hey, Tone, just dropping by to show you some love. You're looking handsome and sexy as always. Miss you. Let's leave that comment up there for a little while.
Oh my gosh. But just click on the picture that Tony has up there. If you are looking for a fantasy series that you wanted to read, like you were looking for a new fantasy series, this is The Legacy of Orisha. Bomb series. Recommend 100%.
Definitely do it. And listen, I all my moderators, I have moderators out there, Santivia and everyone else, people in there. You can state your opinion, you can say what you want and everything, but don't get disgusting about it, because you know my moderators will whack you, and you will get whacked, and that's what it is. I don't got to make the call. I trust any of them to do whatever they got to do. So keep it respectful. If you have, if the show that, you know, I'll give you a little hint from being on a debate team. When you get nasty, it proves that you're not winning your argument, right? So be smart enough to know that. That's what people are going to take it as. So if you want to say something, you know what I mean, say something that is that you can actually say something that you could actually explain what you're meaning instead of just calling names. That's the stupidest thing you can do. It's childish. You know what I mean?
Can I respond to this comment?
Huh?
Can I respond to a comment?
Yeah, who's it? Who is it?
Let me scroll up. Bane EPE. Other than this channel, where are people complaining about it? People are complaining about it everywhere. Like on my casting video, I got hundreds of comments that are totally against it. Some people are totally for it. On Twitter, people are complaining about it. I mean, it's like, I would say 50-50. Like, some people love the idea, some people don't like the idea. And we just wanted to do the stream to say why we like the idea or why we don't like the idea.
That's it. I saw
clarity, just to bring clarity to it.
When I made the video, I told people you could leave a comment and to be honest on your comment. And if you don't like it, just give me all I'm asking for is a reason. Don't give me the bullshit reason. Give me a truly reason, plot wise in the story, why casting a black man in this role would not work. If you could give me that, then I can actually have a conversation with you about it. It's not a problem. But if it's just because you feel a person should look a certain way because that's the image you have in your head, to me, that's not a good enough reason at all. That's not a good enough reason not to give this person that job. And I don't see it. I want Indians. I want Indians too.
I think it should be a lot of people of color. I think if they go through with this casting, that it will be a lot of mixed people, a lot of people of color. Like, it's gonna be very diverse, and I think that's a good thing.
I think what people are doing is they're only looking at, like I said, it's like this, like, and it's not right, but people are just in shock and they're only focusing on the skin tone of this man, that they're not stopping to look at like how much good can happen as a domino effect to casting this man as black. That opens up all sorts of casting for mixed people, all sorts of prominent roles for darker skinned people. Like, think dark-skinned dragon riders. Who doesn't want that? I mean, racists don't want that. But
Nadine doesn't want it. Right? From this comment right here, so the show is about to get scrapped off of they start getting all woke. I guess that's quotation mark woke. All right, by making the lead cast a black man. The story in the book describes these characters as Caucasians.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
So we just went through this. So number one, Nadine, you're wrong. All right, you're wrong what you're saying. They do not describe the lead cast as Caucasians. That's not. I just read to you exactly, if you were here earlier, what George R. Martin wanted them to be. He did not want. He wanted them to be a separate race. I'll pull it back up again for you if you want. He did not want them to be like human beings. He wanted them to be a whole separate race. The Targaryens. That was his whole plan. Not that they were Caucasian. He didn't want them. The people in Westeros were Caucasian. He didn't want them to be like that. He wanted them to be their own separate race and everything else. And it didn't come across that good on the show. That's why he thought about he should have had probably made them black people. At the Targaryens, he said he should have probably made them a black person, but he didn't do it. And the reason why he did it is very interesting. We didn't talk about it. I'm going to talk about it right now because he didn't want people to think of them the way that most likely would have been thought of negatively, the Targaryens, because if it would have been black people on dragons, a few black people on Dragonback, and they came to Westeros, a white land, and took over the exact same way that Aegon, that did, that it would have been looked at worse. It would have been looked like terrible just because these people were black. What do you think about that, Greg? Do you think he's right? Do you think that people would have looked at that as a bad thing? If the Targaryens were black and they did that, they wouldn't be as celebrated as people celebrate them right now?
I think mainly what he was saying was that he didn't want to because the Targaryens can easily be villains, and just to take a group and make them black and then villainize them, that's also problematic. I think that's what he was saying. And somebody commented on here about, for some reason, that Aurain Waters looks like Rhaegar. So, and I just want to say, but Rhaegar's own daughter, Rhaenys, does not look like Rhaegar. So again, genetics.
Here's the deal too. Here's the deal too. Even if you only stick, first of all, like the Targaryens were neighbors to the Velaryons for 400 years. That is a lot of time for those ancient families to like anyway, like I said, it really only takes about 2 generations of dark-skinned individuals to make a family dark-skinned. On the other side of that, it only takes about 2 generations to make them light-skinned again. Like, you can totally, let's just say Corlys Velaryon is the only Black individual in the Velaryon household. 150 years later, you're still going to get white people if, you know, they kept marrying white people after white people after white people. It's like, people don't stop to think about that. It's just so, it blows my mind how we are in the 21st century. We supposedly live in this super woke age, and yet people don't understand how mixed genetics work, how you can, you know, how you can become super, super dark skinned. And then just a couple of generations later, your family goes back to light skinned. It just blows my mind. But the thing is, like, this is 150-ish years before the start of Game of Thrones. That's plenty of time to make the Targaryens fair-skinned again, and there's zero retconning between shows. Zero retconning whatsoever.
Yeah.
No, let me read real quick. Let me just get the super chat so I can get off the screen so we can see her. Thank you for the super chat. 10 euros from Skunk. I don't know the rest, so I was going to say Skunk. He said, I wish people would chill. Character, family has never been on screen. It's not like they are changing the race of the Starks or something. It changes plot 0%. Peace from Ireland. P.S. Mixed is beautiful. I agree 100% with the statement.
I wanted to say about House Valyrian, whatever. In general, they left Valyria years before the Targaryens left. They left years before. And then House Valyrian they're seafarers. They're a seafarer family. So Corlys has been like riding around on ships since he was like 5, probably even younger. He's traveled to all the places in the known world. Corlys has, like, he's been to Ashai, and then before him, was it his grandfather that he was rolling with, or his father? Like, they go to all these different places. So to say that they don't interact with other races of people is kind of crazy to me.
Well, even before Daemon became engaged to Laena, you know, Corlys had Laena betrothed to
the Sea Lord's son.
Yep. Was it the Sea Lord's? Was it one of the Free Cities big honchos' sons? It's been over 2 years since I've read any of this.
No, I don't.
But I mean, like, so well, she was engaged to somebody from the Free Cities. So I mean, like, it's not beyond the realm of possibilities that, like, the Velaryons were white, and then they decided that they were going to form an alliance with someone from the Free Cities. Boom, you have a mixed person. Oh, they decided to keep that, you know, alliance going. Boom, you have a dark-skinned Black man that married a Targaryen woman. They have mixed kids again. Oh, they're marrying other white Targaryens. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to, like, make Corlys Velaryon Black.
No doubt about it. K Church says this. He says, oh, villains because they were Black, but demigods when they were white. I disagree as well. They would have been majestic on Dragon Black. I think they would have been, but I also think that George is right. They would not have been viewed the exact same way. If you look at what Aegon the Conqueror did, he was not a good man. He did shitty shit. He went over to a land. He conquered the whole land with his dragon backs. If they were Black, like George had intended making them Black, they would not have came across as loving, as people wouldn't like them as much as they love the Targaryens right now. I mean,
the people are in the chat. There's somebody in the chat right now that are saying that the Targaryens are like the Nazis. So the Targaryens aren't viewed well. People love Daenerys, but...
Well, it depends on the person. I think it is one of those things where, like, I mean, what that person said in the chat, they're not wrong when they say that it's like, as a whole, if it's a Black person going in and conquering people, they're going to be viewed as villains. But I mean, when it's a white person, it's like, well, it's just conquest. You know, like, people will do that stuff. But I mean, like, to also echo what Gray says, there are plenty of people that look at the Targaryens and they just see them as overreaching colonizers.
They definitely are. I mean, I don't see how they can be seen any way but that, man. People
Mhm.
who, because they had, it'd be like they had the weapons of mass destruction, they were able to just kill people and force their will on people and say, hey, it's only the Targaryens. There's nothing royal about the Targaryens. They're only royal because they claim to be royal, because they made themselves royal, right? It wasn't like they were the high family from where they were from. They weren't the greatest dragon lords. They weren't anything like that. They just were the ones left with dragons. So
Well, even within the story, George has these moments where, yeah, for instance, the winter chill, the chill, that sickness that took little Daenerys, the daughter of King Jaehaerys and Queen Alicent, and then they have this moment of realization that might have been fleeting, where they start to question, like, oh, maybe we're not that exceptional because we're dying too. So I mean, even like good Queen Alicent and this like really great conciliator king, like they have these moments where they literally think that they are above all other human beings because, you know.
Just know that. And look, I don't know what it was when you look at Valyria. I don't know. As I said, I don't know what all those Valyrians look like. I don't know if they all had sex with each other and everything else. We don't know if they were out there. As I said, if you're dragons are like airplanes, and if you're flying around the airplane, you're going to different lands. Eventually, you're going to find someone that catches your eye. You're going to do something with. You don't know what the structure of all the Valyrians are, what was going on there. You don't know if there was actually some black Valyrians living up in there, or black people living up in there. If they had slaves and everything else, some of these people is having sex with slaves, no matter what color they are. These people, men are men, and men is going to take what they can take when they can get it, and that's just the way it is. So it would be hard for me to believe that there were no mixed people over there at all in Valyria. It's hard for me to believe that they were just all just straight what people would consider, right? It's not white because George said you didn't want them as white, but it's hard for me to believe that it was just all this one race of people in any land, any place out there.
Yeah.
And we're totally too basing this around one family out of all of Valyria that made it out of the Doom.
Yeah.
This one family could have been one of the few white families, and here's the thing about the Targaryens as well. It says in the books, the Targaryens weren't really shit compared to the rest of Valyria. Like, they were big fish in a big sea, or like they went from being just another fish in the sea to going all the way to Westeros, and suddenly they're a big fish in a little pond, So I mean, like, just because the Targaryens in the show and in the books as well, they're fair skinned, doesn't mean that they're a testament for all of what Valyria was.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, it never says that Corlys is white. So
yeah, it doesn't.
It never says that.
I could bring up the quote again. George, like I said, George didn't want the Targaryens to be considered as Caucasians. He wanted them to be more like elfish. That's
Elvish,
that was his plan. So just to say that they're white is wrong. You know what I mean? They're white elves, but they could be black elves too. There are black elves. You know what I mean? So they're not supposed to just be Caucasian. And I know, especially for people, that's what it comes down to. There's a billion Caucasian families out. You got the Starks, you got everything else. What is wrong with this? This one person, this one family, that's casting a black person. And Nadine's saying that, oh, it's going to ruin the show just because they cast, because now all of a sudden they cast this one. How? This one casting ruined the whole show. How could you say that's what it is? I mean, that's just crazy to me. And you think that this because they now look, you're bringing in the Blood Moon stuff. Blood Moon was a disaster from the start because they George wasn't affiliated with that, and I don't know what they were doing there. They just messed it up. I don't know the details. Go check the Dragons Demand channel. He'll give you all the background on that and stuff. But Blood Moon was just messed up from the whole start and everything else, and that is the reason why that didn't come off. But in George's own words, he said he did not want them to be considered like Caucasian, like the other people at Targaryens, and that's the reason why they were so into just breeding with themselves, because they're not the same as the regular humans, the same race as them.
Here's the deal too. It's like, when it comes down to it, Rhaenyra and Daemon's son, Aegon III, he ended up sitting the throne after he died after a couple sons that just didn't make it in the end. Viserys ended up getting the throne. So these are two white people whose son ended up on the throne, which the rest of House Targaryen comes from Rhaenyra and Daemon. So in the end, they quote unquote won anyway. But I mean, with that said, if these two white people ended up begetting the rest of House Targaryen, that leads to House Targaryen in Game of Thrones, then what's the big fucking deal about making Corlys Velaryon black? What's the big fucking deal about all the other ethnic breakdown you do in the show outside of that? If that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Who gives it?
And when we talked earlier about the question of pandering, the more that we talk about it here, the more I feel like it's not pandering, and it was well thought out to include people of color and to make it more diverse. And Corlys is probably the best choice of a character to do that with.
Exactly. And I will say though, like, I really, really hope that Black people are included in the writing, because something that started out really, really great can go to shit really, really quickly if you're not including other ethnicities and, in this whole writing process. But I'll echo what Gray said. I think this could be a very, very good move. It could be a very smart move. I think we need to give it a chance before we all hop on and say, like, it's going to ruin the show. It's pandering,
Have y'all seen Black Panther? Did you guys see Danny Sapani in Black Panther? He is standing up there, like in the fight with T'Challa, when T'Challa's fighting to become the new Black Panther or whatever. He's standing up there and he has on the House Valyrian colors. Like, he has on teal. He looks regal AF. Like, watch that clip on YouTube of him standing up there in House Valyrian colors. And imagine, like, the relationship between him and Daemon being played out.
I only watched so much of Penny Dreadful. My roommate and her boyfriend were watching it at the time, and I would just kind of, how third wheeling roommate goes when someone's watching TV, like, hey guys, what are you watching? Can I sit down? Ooh, what's this? What's happening? I'm not super familiar with his character. I will say I very much, the feeling I got was more like he was like the butler or whatever, which I don't like just casting Black men in butler roles for obvious reasons. But I mean, every scene he was in, he did have a very commanding presence. He had a very strong presence. I mean, that's what I'll say on that. That's mostly what I remember him from, Penny Dreadful, and he just has a very strong air about him. He has I can see him as Corlys.
Yeah, I can totally see him capturing the badassery that is the sea snake. Like, the sea snake is a badass, straight up.
Let me get to these super chats real quick. Let me read them all. Skunk again, $10 from €10 says Valyria ruled a third of Planetos, clearly gonna have some Black people, and the Valyrians were on the edge of the map and a small family compared to the Targaryens. Let alone the high families of Valyria. And other one we have here is from Girls Nettles. I don't know if I can highlight that word. It says, what made Targ's magic is the purple eyes and silver hair. Corlys can be Black and have that magic passed on him too. Imagine Corlys looking like Helmdall, magic as fuck.
Yes. Hey, Girl Nettles. And Girl Nettles is actually an actress, and her agent has been looking for any news on the casting of Nettles. So if you guys hear anything about casting calls for a description like Nettles, hit up Girl Nettles on Instagram or Twitter. I think it's at Girl Nettles, just like it looks like on the screen.
Yeah, is that the Nettle bikini from Star Wars? Because that looks amazing.
Girl, go to her Instagram. She has some amazing cosplays. That's Nettle.
Please put your link and everything, all your stuff in the chat. If one of my mods can grab her stuff, put it up in there and send it to me privately. I'd like to take a look at those costumes myself.
Oh, I got a question. I got a question from Twitter that I want you guys to talk about really quick.
Yeah.
It's from my boo, I eat zebra. Arya. So, hey booze, if they move forward with Danny as Corlys, do you think they will make the rest of the Velaryons also black? Also, what does this mean for Nettles? All I know is Nettles needs to be biracial in the show or I'll lose my shit, but love you guys. I'll be tuning in.
As a guest, ladies first, go right ahead.
You go ahead, Gray.
Okay, so I do think that Nettles is going to be biracial. I think there's no way around that. There's no way around that. I think a lot of the Velaryons will be biracial, but it will be, I don't think you'll be able to look at them and say, some of them you'll probably be able to look at and say, yeah, but others, I don't think you'll be able to tell. I think it'll be ambiguous sometimes and not others, but I think they'll be biracial.
Yeah, I think that quite a bit of House Velaryon is at the very least going to be mixed. I would, in a very silly way, right now I don't want to say silly, but right now I'm imagining the Smollett siblings playing Lena and Laenor until they get it casted. That's just my own, but I mean, I definitely see quite a bit of dark-skinned people in House Velaryon, and frankly, I love it. And I will say, I also it's a bias because I'm mixed, but I think Nettles is mixed from the books, and I would love to see that translate to the show because I do think mixed people need more representation. I do. I was an adult the first time I even saw a mixed family on a commercial. I remember it was a Cheerios commercial and it was a big deal. So I'm just saying, like, please.
That was the first one too. The Cheerios commercial was the first one with the mixed family. I remember seeing it and I remember pointing it out when that commercial came out. So that's the first time I've ever seen a mixed family on a commercial ever.
So I'm saying, please put it on major blockbuster television because this is something that needs to be normalized. These are uncomfortable conversations that we need to have in order for this to be more normalized, not just for like visual representation of mixed people, but also so that we can get over this whole bullshit about like, well, why is a black person playing a white role? It just, there's so much opportunity to open up our eyes in ways that we've never even thought about before, even when we mean well. And I just say, please just let a bunch of mixed folk run around my TV screen.
Especially when white people have played other races in millions of movies, and I don't hear no one complain about that.
Right.
Saying that they have done it 1,000 times. Even the girl right now who plays Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, she's supposed to play Cleopatra. And she's in the next movie. We had Elizabeth Taylor play Cleopatra. That whole other movie with the Egyptians.
We had Nickelodeon, Costco, Walmart played an Egyptian god. I can't say his name. I'm sorry. Nickelodeon, Costco, Walmart.
It's always Egyptians they like to play. I'm not going to get into the discussing blackface. I'm not talking about it. I'm just talking about, bro. I mean, even in the parody Tropic Thunder, they had, Robert Downey Jr. put blackface on and play a black person in there. You know what I mean? So this is happened. They do it. White people have done it all the time, and it's never a problem. And these are historical people that they're playing, and that should be more of an issue than made up characters from a world that does not exist, that has zombies and White Walkers and dragons in it. So I just don't know how if she's Israeli. Yeah, she's Israeli. That she's not Egyptian though. So and she could be Israeli. That has nothing to do with her playing it Cleopatra. Because you're Israeli doesn't mean you should be able to play Cleopatra. Go find yourself an Egyptian woman to play that Egyptian woman. It's not hard. There are Egyptian actresses out there who could pull it off. Go find one.
I know. I wanted to say
John
that
Wayne played Genghis Khan.
None of us, like all three of us, are some of the biggest A Song of Ice and Fire book fans that I know. Like, so we are all about the source material and sticking to the source material. And if we are okay with this, I'm not saying if we are okay with this, everyone should be okay with this because that's kind of rude. But we're okay with it. Does not affect the plot. And I know like a lot of people are saying that, and that's like their biggest argument is the plot. It doesn't affect the plot. It doesn't compromise the source material in any way, I don't feel like. And
I think people look at something that's not typical and they tell themselves it can't be done. You know, like it's not. I really do think that having mixed people on here and arguing about what they look like seems problematic face value, but it really does open up a whole world of like conversations we should be having. You cannot grow without discomfort. You cannot, like, as a person, as a society in general, like even when our bodies physically grow as we grow up, like it fucking hurts. Like physically it fucking hurts. You know, I mean, like in order to grow as a society, you need to have these uncomfortable conversations where three people are getting together and saying, like, why the fuck why can't a Black person play this white role? You know, I think that within a show that's going to have as many views as it is, I think it is important for a Black man to have mixed children, and then those mixed children. And I mean, Lena and Laenor, they are dead by they're both dead by the dance of the dragon. But I mean, like, there do need to be Black people defending. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, and now it's gonna sound stupid. But I mean, like, there does need to be a discussion about like what is and isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things just because of skin color. And one thing I absolutely do not fucking want to see, is how a trio of children are labeled not good enough and unworthy because they literally aren't white enough. I don't want to see that on TV. I just don't. And ties into the imagery that like means well, but it just like subconsciously puts shit in our head that I talked about earlier. Like I would like to see basically them saying like, well, you know, shouldn't the strong kids, if they were, you know, shouldn't the Velaryon boys, if they were truly heirs to the throne, shouldn't they have these features that are closer to XYZ? And then you have other people over here saying like, yeah, but what does that mean to you? How do genetics work to you? Like, exactly. I'd love, you know, so I mean,
they will have their grandfathers on both sides, like, fuck all of you, like, fuck all of you, like, these are my grandkids, because Viserys is that way, and so is Corlys. They're both like, fuck off. So
yeah, and I'm not going to have the Cleopatra argument with y'all. This is not about that. But if y'all want to have a whole stream about that argument, I'll definitely do a stream on the whole situation.
She was Greek, right?
All right, yeah, but the whole thing about Cleopatra and the whole thing is people didn't want to make her a woman of color because Cleopatra was supposed to be considered a beautiful woman. She really wasn't that beautiful, but in the history, she's remembered as a beautiful woman. They did not want to have a person of color considered beautiful. As for Gal Gadot being Israeli, that means she's not white. She is Caucasian. She's not Israeli people. The original Israeli are the Hebrew Israelites, who are Black people. I'm not going to go into all that situation with y'all right now about all that right now. The point is being proven is that white people have whitewashed roles before for themselves. As a person said, John Wayne played Genghis Khan. I haven't seen anyone put a comment about that situation right there, right in the chat whatsoever about John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. Y'all hooked up on Cleopatra, but I'm saying it's been done and no one complained about it before. So why are you complaining about it now? If the person can play the role and do the role justice, then you should be able to do that role, right? That's the whole thing that people are trying to say. If this man would be coming to acting chops, if this man could not do it, then it's a different situation. This man obviously is a great athlete, can pull it off easy. And as Grace said, I respect the books 100% more than a lot of people do. All right, I respect the books. If they came out here and they said Ned Stark was a Black man, I would be the first person to come up here and say, no, you can't make the whole House Stark Black. All right, I would tell you that. I would be the first one to say, no, House Stark is not Black. They're Vikingish people up there, right? I would be the first one if they changed the Lannisters and said the Lannisters were a Black family. I would say something about it. I would be the first person to say, no, that's not the way the story should be told. It shouldn't be that, all right? I'd be the first one to say it. But this character right here that we have no physical description of in any of the books, I don't see that being a problem of making this person a black man.
Yeah, that makes me think that they really thought about it. Like they really took into consideration the source material. Like they really thought about it. They really took it seriously, and they're really taking the story seriously because it makes sense for Corlys Velaryon. Like it makes sense more than any, like if it was Daemon, it might not make as much sense, but it's Corlys. It's House Velaryon, who's never been portrayed on screen at all or mentioned on screen at all.
Yeah, that's what Willie Lee is saying. He's a Summer Islander now, but if you could just give me the text that shows that
That icon says it.
that he's a white person, then we could talk about that. But he's not. You know what I mean? We don't have anything that's saying that. And just the fact that he's a black person and people are all up in arms about it, I just don't see the reason for people to be up in arms on it.
But here's the deal. Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut you off again. I'm so sorry.
Go right ahead.
But I got excited and I was like, I don't know. Okay, so here's the deal though. When it comes down to it, Game of Thrones is doing whatever show comes after it huge favors. Almost like the concept of an oldest sibling is like the experimental sibling, and all the other siblings after that kind of have it easier. Game of Thrones was a blueprint of what to do and what not to do because fans have had such visceral responses to it one way or another. Like it got to a point where we were like, oh my God, they put a fucking coffee cup in that scene. This show sucks. Burn it all down. Da da da. They know good and damn well people are going to be both expecting and looking for inconsistencies and plot holes and things that just do not work. They're not going to nonsensically, I made up that word just now, let's go with it. They're not just going to throw a black man into this role if it's just going to turn out utter nonsense. They did put a lot of thought into it, I think. You know, after all that shit with Game of Thrones and how people were upset and all that other stuff, they're not going to do anything that's going to run the risk of getting the same backlash that Game of Thrones got for things that did not make sense, things that were inconsistent, things about production that were, you know, to them lazy, like the coffee cup or the water bottle.
Or,
you know,
being majority white in the writing room, directing, writing, casting, majority, like they got a lot of backlash for that.
Right. And George is in on this. This is not like George is. It's not like Game of Thrones. George was in on it, but he's not as much as he's in on this. This is like This was George and Ryan Condal's shit. They're the ones who presented this to HBO. It was them too. They went there together and said, "This is our show." So George is in on this, and he's saying it's okay. He wrote the damn books. If he's saying it's okay, then it's okay. I don't know how you could say that there's a problem with it when the guy who wrote the books is the one doing it. He's the one doing it. So if he's doing it, you have to just go with him. I mean, you can't say anything about it. That's what it is. The man who wrote the books is doing it. It's not someone adapting it and doing his books dirty. He said many a times with Dan and Dave, well, the show was theirs and the books is my baby and this is their thing. He came out many a times and said this. This is his show. He pitched it with Ryan together. They hired Miguel Sapotnik to run the show for them. It's his show. He's the one who's saying it's okay. So if he's saying it's okay, how does anyone else have the right to say you fucking with the law? It's his law. His law. He's the one who came up with this whole thing. And he's saying it's good. So I don't know how anyone could argue what George is doing. Then you don't like this guy, then stop reading his books then.
Exactly what you're saying. And just to like segue a little bit, I think that a lot of people are still bitter about season 8. A lot of people are still mad as hell at Game of Thrones, and they look for anything to kind of like just drag them more. It's addictive. It's addictive to drag Game of Thrones and HBO. Like it's addictive at this point. But this isn't that. Like this isn't one of those things. Dan and Dave are not involved in this show. And Game of Thrones never had, they've always casted very well. HBO has always casted very well. Acting has always been priority. And even when you get into like the other casting, like people saying Matt Smith isn't hot enough, D'Arcy isn't hot enough to be Rhaenyra, this person is too hot to be Queen Alicent. Like it kind of, to me, is just like part of still being bitter about season 8. But like, I do understand where people have images of how people should look, because I totally thought that Daemon should be Ragnar from Vikings. Like, I thought that. Okay, Daemon is cast as Matt Smith. Let's go. Like, okay, let's see how it's gonna go before we jump to conclusions. And I was talking to Amanda, the Disputed Lands, and she made a very good point. Like, the Targaryens are described as otherworldly. They are described kind of like elves and alien kind of, and those chiseled features that the two actors that they cast to play Daemon and Rhaenyra, I feel like in a silver-haired, at least $1,000 lace front, no Party City shit, they're gonna be amazing. Like, with lighting and makeup, like, they're gonna be amazing. I don't think it's fair to just drag these actors because they aren't hot enough, or in this situation because he's not white and playing Corlys.
Well, you could. I mean, as far as Matt Smith playing Daemon, you could make a case too that maybe part of the pull of the Valyrians after a while is because they're royal and they're dragon lords.
Right,
So I
like,
mean, when you have that going for you, like I mean, think about how many people have gone to a bar, gotten a little bit drunk, and like I don't want to make that analogy, but I mean, like, when you're quote unquote impressed with something about somebody, it does kind of change the way you visually view them.
especially. Oh, go ahead.
Like, who's to say they maintained this otherworldly beauty throughout the years? And who's to say some of the pull wasn't because they're royal? Of course, not everybody, but I mean, of course, a ton of people are going to want to get with the dragon rider. Of course, a ton of people are going to want to get with the royal. And as a result, oh, they must be beautiful. If I don't think that they're beautiful, maybe something's wrong with me. There are so many. If you need to sleep at night, there is so much you can do as far as mental gymnastics go to make that work. I won't lie. When I saw that Matt Smith was in the lead to play Daemon, I retweeted a video that was basically made it was like a dent.
Yeah.
Like, I won't lie. Right. I will not lie. But at the same time, I'm willing to give it a chance. And my whole hang up was because I've only seen Matt in like clips of Doctor Who. And I'm sorry, but like, he looked like a goofy ass motherfucker, not necessarily because of his face, but because, the pace he was talking in, the weird plastic props he was using.
Yeah, the portrayal that the character he was playing.
Right. But if he plays the fuck out of a morally ambiguous dude, I'm sorry. I think everyone involved in the Dance of the Dragon, I think they're all assholes, but I mean, like, if he plays the fuck out of an asshole, I am on board. It's kind of like Theon Greyjoy. When I saw Alfie Allen was playing Theon Greyjoy, I threw a fit in my head. And now all this time later, I'm like, I can't think of anyone else who could have played Theon. Get the fuck past it.
There's no doubt. And when you look at people, look, these celebrities out there, you know what I mean? I'll go with Lil Wayne. There are women that'll tell you Lil Wayne's the most gorgeous man they've ever seen in their life, right? They'll tell you that because they're fans of his. But I've looked at the man, and I'm telling you he's not. That's my opinion. People have their, even when you deal with Prince William, everyone thought he was the greatest looking thing in the world, right? Look at Prince William right now. Do you still think that? I mean, when he's bald and everything else, does he still look like that greatest man in the world? When people are in different positions of power, they have different images. There are people, or whether it's a family, whether you have a rich family name, you're from a rich family, people, because they come from that family, they get the buy, they get the pass, they automatically they're good looking. And it's just because of situations like that. You know what I'm saying? So just because people are fans of people, they make them seem like they get like Rhaegar's supposed to be this great looking guy from all descriptions, but when they put that guy who casted him and he looked like Viserys, people are like, oh, this ain't the Rhaegar I thought, but he could have just had that aura about him that people just thought he was because he was. Now maybe he was, but you see who they casted to play him, he didn't seem.
I thought that actor was beautiful. It's just that with the wig, he looked busted for his own wedding. That was my only hang up.
Heidi from Costume Co. she is saying that some of those lace front wigs were $6,000. Please tell me the wig they had on Rhaegar was not $6,000.
I mean, they could have been going for the, they might have been traveling down the road. He might have been travel weary. They decided to stop by by a tree or something and have a one. You can do so many mental gymnastics. It's fiction. It's fucking fiction. It's fiction, but I mean, like when it comes down to it, Matt Smith is playing Daemon Targaryen. And really, I had to stop and ask myself, do I really want to be sexually attracted to a dude that does half of the shit that Daemon Targaryen ends up doing during the dance or in his lifetime in general? Do I really want to be sexually attracted to that?
Yes.
No.
Hey, look, Lando Calrissian, he wasn't supposed to be a black man, right? George Lucas went out there and he put a black man, Billy D in that role. Could you ever see anyone else being Lando Calrissian other than Billy D? See how good that worked out? Billy D. I mean, it's things like that. Sometimes people have to have the foresight to see, like, hey, this person could do that. And I think people just, they have to just, don't worry about what you have built in your head already. Let's see what this guy got, and then we'll judge him on that.
And even oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even in universe, like you have a lot of people that describe Lyanna as beautiful, where Arya's like, that's never a thing anyone said about me. But then you have Kevin Lannister like, I don't see what nobody saw in that wolf girl. She was nothing compared to Cersei. So you have conflicting, like beauty is really, really in the eye of the beholder. But then with Daemon, like you have Daemon pulling up on a dragon. Like he's pulling up. If a guy pulled up to you on a dragon right now, you might think that he's hot, even if he's not. And then you have like, look at Aegon the Unworthy. Like he wasn't hot, but he had a lot of women. He had a lot of beautiful women.
And think about it too, in real life, how many times has a woman dated somebody, or not just a woman, how many times have you it's more typical that women will quote unquote date down, but I mean, how many times have you seen a woman who thinks that their significant other is a 10, but it kind of started out as them thinking they were a 5 or a 6, and as time goes by they become more endeared to them? Like a lot of attraction isn't things that they do, it's in things that they have going for them. When it comes down to it, it is disappointing that Alexander Skarsgård, who is my headcanon, is not playing Daemon Targaryen, but Matt Smith is what we got. Time to make peace with reality. And give
it a chance. Give it a chance.
I've done a lot of casting videos, and I said, and we look at Travis playing that role. Listen, I think that everyone, you've seen him in Vikings, you've seen him get into fights in Vikings, you've seen him play. So obviously you already seen it. So you're like, I've seen this guy in action. I know he can do it. We don't know what this other guy can do yet. Let's give him a chance. If you would have casted Travis Finnell and you never seen him before, you're like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? But you already seen it, so you're confident that he could pull it off. Let's see what this guy got. Let's see what he can do first before we even say, before you even say anything about it. But I'm gonna pull this up one more time so that people can see this. How I do? I think it's here. Boom. So I just want to read this one more time so people understand what George meant. This is from George R. R. Martin's mouth himself. He says right here, right from the start, I wanted the Targaryens, by extension, the Valyrians, from who they were descended, to be a race apart, with distinctive features that set them apart from the rest of Westeros. All right? That is what it is. That's what he wanted. So if you're looking at the people over there as Caucasian in Westeros, he did not want them to be Caucasian. So if that is your argument, then that argument is over, out the water. That's not what he wanted. All right. So don't look at them like that. Look at them as elves, something different than Caucasian. That's not what he was going for. He was trying to do something else, and it worked in the books, but on screen, it just doesn't work that way.
And sometimes too, you have to, in order to get past a certain expectation you have to come to terms with uncomfortable truths about yourself when it comes to knee-jerk reactions. And I know there are probably going to be a lot of people that hear this that don't want to completely hear me out and be like, you stupid bitch. Anyway, the first 10 seconds of getting news that a Black man was going to play Corlys, I told myself right away, like, no, that's not going to work. And then after those 10 seconds, I stopped and asked myself, but why, Alicia? Why? And for me personally, the answer was a ton of internalized discrimination that I needed to unpack. And after I faced that and I admitted to myself, suddenly the why became why not. And then I started getting on board with it. Not a whole lot of people are oh God, I just sounded like Trump. I'm doing things not a lot of people do. But I mean, like, commonly people don't want to face those ugly truths about themselves. Instead of maybe admitting that their knee-jerk reaction to saying no is something that's so internalized and ingrained within us, they make asses out of themselves by trucking along down this, well, it just won't work out. It just won't work out narrative, you know?
I don't know what this comment means from Daisy.
Well, she's talking about Matt Smith.
Oh, all right. Listen, you don't know. If you see Matt Smith as Charles Manson, he doesn't look anything like what he looks like right there. I'll pull up a picture of Matt Smith as Charles Manson.
And in Terminator, that Terminator Genesis was a whack movie, right? But he plays a villain. Like, he plays a villain, and there's a scene of him like coming up in there looking real Damonish. So I think you guys should maybe watch that clip, and that might change your mind a little bit about his range.
Okay, I'm going to say something slightly shallow and petty, but I mean, as long as they give him visible eyebrows, I'm good.
His eyebrows are a little naughty. He doesn't have eyebrows. But this is him right here, Charles Manson. This is him. That doesn't look like the person that you see in the picture when you see his screenshot, but this is him right here as Charles Manson with a beard. Probably looks something similar towards this, what they're doing. So, you know, and you look at the real Charles Manson, he's not that far off. He's a better shot of him, a closer up shot right here as Matt Smith as Charles Manson.
And look, he has eyebrows.
The thing is too, it's all about your mannerisms, your facial expressions, certain like tics in your face. Because you know how sometimes couples date each other, they're together and they're married, and everyone always makes this joke that they start to look like siblings after a while. Mm-hmm. You know, it's because they're adopting each other's facial expressions. So, I mean, the faces that you make can really make you look a certain way. We need to give this a chance. And if we find ourselves so terribly hung up on physical features, then I'm just going to be harsh and I'm going to be absolute. And I'm going to say, then don't watch the fucking show and stick to your books. And you can make whatever mental image you want to in your head. But I mean,
also people are showing his headshot. They're showing his headshot as like, this is him. A headshot is a blank canvas. And it's meant to be blank. You don't have makeup on. It's blank. So that when people look at your headshot, they can see what kind of makeup they need to do, what they can do with you. It's not like he doesn't have makeup on. He doesn't have anything on. It's a headshot. So I agree with you. Like, if this upsets you so bad, just don't watch it.
Right.
Yeah, you see the point where it's going to ruin. Oh, this is going to ruin the season because you casted one Black person in a lead role. So now the whole series is going to be ruined. Give me a break, man. I think you have to really search out your internal issues with it, if that's truly how you feel about the show. You know what I mean? So I think that's really got something more to do with you than the actual show itself. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, they made Salador Sand. They made him Black. Did it ruin Game of Thrones for you?
I thought he was better in the show than he is in the books, to be honest.
Exactly. I agree.
And the lady who played the wildling woman, I forgot, Natalie is her name. George R. R. Martin said that if he seen her play that role, he would have gave her more stuff in the books.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a fact. She did she brought that character to life more than he ever did in the books. But if he seen her do that first, he would have wrote her so much more. So it's casting means a lot. You know what I mean? It's all a lot of casting. As Phil says right here, Heath Ledger playing the Joker. Nobody would have ever thought Heath Ledger could have pulled the Joker off if you
Right.
his work before that. There's nothing in his work that you've seen before that make you think that Heath Ledger would have been such a great Joker as he became until you've seen him in that role.
I want to say something. So in the chat, someone asked who Alicia was, and then somebody's like, "Oh, she's Gray Area's friend." So she is my friend, but Alicia, in her own right, is a Song of Ice and Fire elite. She, you don't like the word elite? It's fine. She's she does. She's done podcasts. She's been on podcasts with me, on Obsidian Nights, and we just did a Cersei special. She's been on Not a Cast with Brendan Beefish and Emmett. So like she's her own person. Alicia, tell them about yourself.
Honestly, I don't really create content. I just come along for the ride. It's like I said on Not a Cast, I consider myself more of a Song of Ice and Fire socialite than actual content creator. But I have thoughts and I get really loud about my thoughts. And sometimes when you're loud, you get attention. So, I mean, yeah.
And you can follow her on Twitter at Totes Not Alice.
No doubt, you can definitely do that, and you can subscribe to Teflon TV if you haven't already. And I promise you, it won't be doing. I'm not afraid to do topics like this. I feel that as a black man, and in all honesty, one of the few black men that create content for this community, that I have to address situations like this when they come up. I just would not feel comfortable if I did not do it. Right. So I feel I have to do it as for the black people that are in this community. So that is why I'm not afraid to do subjects like this, and I will do subjects like this, but this is not something that I do all the time. I really do have a lot of fun and everything else. Jesus, I am getting blown up right but I am don't do content like this. So we do have a lot of fun on this channel a lot of times. So if you do subscribe, don't think that this is what it's always going to be about. It's not always going to be like that at all. You know what I mean? But this is something that just had to be addressed because, and if I didn't get all those negative comments or the comments I got, I wouldn't have addressed it. But it just seemed like it's a big issue, and I just don't understand the issue or why it has to be like that. It shouldn't have to be like that. I think everyone's going to be proven wrong, and I think as soon as the show comes out and you see this man this role, you're going to be like, oh, he is doing a great job. Yeah, he's great. Watch. Everyone's going to have to flip the switch then. You all got to flip the switch when it's all said and done. You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait for him. Hopefully he gets casted. I do believe he will. And watch what he does with the role. Watch what he does with it. Then everyone will be like, you ain't going to be able to see anybody else. And as I said, it's important, especially in a fandom, right? In a fandom, you want to have people feel included. It's important to have people of color be included in this fandom. Like I go to Con of Thrones. I never dress up as Con. Gray dresses up. She's in costume when she goes to Con of Thrones. A lot of people dress up. I've never dressed up because there's no one for me to dress up. The only character I can come up with was I said I would go as Jon Bro. I go as Jon Snow with a big afro wig, right? That was going to be my character I was going to dress up as. But I don't want to do that. I'd rather have just a black person that I can actually put a costume on and be that person. People recognize me as that because that's what you need. If you want a fandom to be successful and to grow and maintain, you need to have diversity. You have to have people in there that feel comfortable being in there. You have to have people that they can relate to. So whether it's him, the children, and everyone else, you have to have all that stuff going on. Listen, I'll have a House Valyrian costume jumping off this mug if this is the way it is. I can't wait to rock it like that. You know what I'm saying? But it truly is important to have these things, and not just for the sake of trying to have someone be black in it. George R. R. Martin put this person in there because he feels that if this is the way he's going with it, because he feels it's the right way to go with it. And if he is not complaining about it, I don't think you have the right to.
Well said.
Well said. I think this was a very good stream, and I think it was needed. I definitely think it was needed.
I was
Perfect.
hoping somebody would cover it. Like I was hoping a Black person would cover it. And Tony did come to mind. I just never would have dreamed that I would come along for the ride. So thank you for allowing me onto your show. Thank you for covering this. Thank you for opening up this discussion because, like you said, it needed to be had. It's not the most comfortable conversation, but we cannot grow without contraction and discomfort.
No doubt about it. It's like every year I go to Con Thrones, I do a panel every year. It's called, how is it being a Black person of color in the Game of Thrones fandom? I do that panel every year. Every year. And I appreciate doing that panel. And I would like to get to a point where I don't have to do that panel, right? So there's no one making a panel, how is it to be a white person in this fandom, right? But there's a panel that how to be a person of color in this fandom. So hopefully we get to a point where we never have to have panels like that and everything else. But until we do, I have no problem doing panels like that. Gray area, let the people know, because I know the history of Westeros is about to start a stream. They usually start this time. I don't want to step on their toes. I talked to Aziz earlier, so if you're still looking for more Game of Thrones content, please go to the history of Westeros and watch their stream. I got a football game I have to watch because I'm in the fantasy football and I need to be watching my team. But Gray, before that happens, let the people know where they can find you.
All right. So you can find me at Gray Area on YouTube, at This Gray Area on Twitter, and at This Gray Area on Instagram. And I'm gonna really start doing a lot more House of the Dragon focused stuff, like I was in the beginning of the year.
No doubt.
Thanks for having me on. I think this was very, very much needed.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on. I truly appreciate it. Alicia, thank you for coming on here. I'm sorry that, we'll get you on here on a more better topic, not better topic, but, a more funner topic. I promise you that.
Well, thank you for already inviting me back. And yeah, no, my friend was watching and texted me about the whole Aisha thing. And he's like, see, I told you were Black now. So thank you. Thank you.
No doubt. And if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay